Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Crafting Effective AI Sessions for CAB Meetings. Just some notes on housekeeping notes. We're recording the webinar. We'll send the recording afterward. We welcome questions throughout the session, so go ahead and type them in the Q&A box, and the chat is open as well. So today's speaker is Eyal Danan, President of Ignite. I'll hand it over to you. Go ahead, Eyal.
Thank you very much, Tatiana, and very happy to be with you here today with this timely session, right? AI in advisory board meetings. Gotta tell you, and I'm sure it's not a surprise to anyone, AI is everywhere. You can't ignore it. You can't run away from it. Anytime you open the TV, open up the newspaper, you talk to people at business meetings, it's all about AI. And we're going to talk about the best way to structure your session in the upcoming customer advisory board meeting that you have. If you're going to walk away with one thing from this webinar, it's this point. Do not try to mix and match different AI-related topics in one session. Most of the companies that are planning to run a session in their advisory board are planning for only one session instead of multiple sessions or a workshop that is longer in term. And many companies just try to do too much. They try to define what is AI through the different iterations. They try to talk about ROI and how do you define ROI. Maybe they talk about the talent that is needed, the regulatory aspect of it, technology, use cases, and then pretty soon it becomes too much. So we'll talk about all that. Let's move on to the next slide, please. So Ignite has been in business for a long time now, and if you are in the customer marketing, customer advocacy profession, you probably heard of us. Those of you that didn't hear about us, so just a brief intro. We help B2B companies, we only work with B2B firms, engage with their executive customers through game-changing customer advisory boards. On the left, you see our definition for what we do, right? We engage senior executive clients, influencers, and obviously the internal team at your company. And the aim is first to sustain customer-driven feedback, exchange, and ongoing relevancy, and then elevate the customer relationships and advocacy and sales opportunities. On the right, you see the way Forrester Research is looking at Ignite. They're looking at it from the lens of business outcomes in terms of retention, sales, profit, and market alignment. You can see some of the companies we work with. Important for me to note, we've done more than 300 advisory board engagements, but not only with Fortune 500 firms. We work with leading B2B firms of all sizes. Next slide, please. So what are the services that Ignite provides? We can create an advisory board or a partner advisory board if you have partners or channels or value-added resellers. From the beginning, we can optimize an existing board, or you could also use us just for facilitation for your upcoming advisory board meeting. I'll turn it over to Tatiana to run the first poll.
Sure. So quick poll on the status of your advisory board program. Don't have a program, trying to launch, existing program on hold, program in progress, expanding program, looking to add new boards. And we'll just give it another 20 seconds or so. Thank you. I'm going to share the results. Do you see the results, Eyal?
Let me see.
So majority right now have an existing program, and it's running in progress, 56%. And then 22% are looking to add new boards. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Tatiana. Okay. moving on to the AI topic. So again, I shared it in the beginning. AI is everywhere, kind of a mixed bag when you look at the business side of it, right? Obviously, the tech firms are seeing a huge jump in market share, in recognition, in market caps. Seems like fortunes are being made overnight. However, there are concerns, specifically coming from the financial, insurance, healthcare, heavily regulated industries in terms of trust, privacy, regulatory fears. So kind of a mixed bag. And again, if you have comments, questions, feel free to jump in and use the chat. I'll turn it over to the next poll that Tatiana is going to run.
Yes, so let me launch the poll. Okay, so are you considering running an AI session at your CAB meeting? Yes, no, maybe, or not applicable. So I'll give it another 15 seconds or so. Okay, thank you. We're sharing the results. Do you see the results, Eyal? The majority, as we expected, are yes.
Yep.
Some may, and then some maybe, some are just no, and some don't have a caveat. So thank you,
Good.
everyone.
Good. So let's continue. Okay, why talk about AI at your upcoming meeting? I mean, it seems like you can't ignore it, right? You can't run away from it. But when we look under the hood in terms of what can we do with an AI-focused session at your next customer meeting, at your next advisory board meeting, there are several things that we might consider, right? What is the strategic impact of AI on your business? How much AI you need to infuse into your workforce, into your tech, into your operational team? What would be the brand differentiation if you start using AI? Will you be able to disrupt the market, right? What is your future relevancy if you're not engaging with AI right now? And how do you handle risk management? Right? And these are all things that are obviously very important to any firm out there. Another way that we like to think of it as Ignite, it's kind of like front office, middle office, and back office, where the front office is revenue generation, sales, marketing, middle office is operational support, and then the back office is anything that supports the business, right? IT, HR, legal, and where do you want AI to actually make the biggest impact? Is it all three? Do you want to start with, let's say, sales and marketing and define the ideal customer profile for your firm, define cross-selling opportunities, or you want to start on the tech side, right? These are questions that pretty much every firm needs to answer. And you could get member insights. When we talk about members, by the way, for those of you that still do not have an advisory board, members are the customers, the clients that are part of your advisory boards. We call them members. So CAB members, you can get their insights on their adoption level and maturity when it comes to AI. You can get feedback on use cases and how do you build a business case around deploying AI? What are some of the risks? And then how can your particular company help your clients achieve their goals with AI? So here are some elements to consider. Before I start, let me just look at the chat. Okay, good. Some good comments here. So let's look at the chart from Gartner here, right? So there's a lot of confusion when it comes to AI, right? This chart is talking about Gen AI or generative AI. And, it shows different iteration from base level Gen AI and then going to, LLM, large language models and neural networks. And then everyone heard about Chat GPT. But this slide is a bit misleading in a sense that it doesn't cover the full spectrum of AI, going from the beginning to what is called as rules-based, and then moving throughout the different iterations and differentiating. When people think about ChatGPT or generative AI, they confuse it with artificial general intelligence, AGI. AGI doesn't exist yet, right? That's where you would be able as a company to use bots that would mimic human beings, not only on trained data sets, but pretty much on any other cognitive function. It doesn't exist yet. Ray Kurzweil from Google, who is a leading AI pioneer, for a long time talked about 2045 as the date where AI is going to explode into our environment, business environment, and into our lives. But he recently revised it to 2030. So 7 years. The point I'm trying to make here is there is a lot of confusion. There are a lot of myth around AI, going all the way from doomsday and Skynet Terminator scenarios to, what AI can actually do. So you need to actually decide what do you want to review with the members. Here are some questions that can help you get to it. Did you start developing your own AI initiatives? What is your internal level of AI expertise and usage? Are your customers using your AI solutions or are involved in proof of concepts? And is your industry ready for AI? Some industries are, still not ready for a major disruption. Okay, preparation is really key for running any cab session, but when it comes to AI, I think it's even more pronounced. So here are some best practices from Ignite. You need to have internal prep meetings, at least 3. Usually we recommend around 5 prep meetings per session with all the relevant stakeholders, right? So it can be kind of a last minute thing. You have to differentiate between a session leader versus a presenter. Unless this is an educational session where you're looking to educate your customers on the different iterations and platforms that they can use, you don't want a presenter. You want a session leader that would actually engage the members in a lively discussion. So key distinction between a session leader and a presenter. We talked about the clarity. Make sure that you have some key discussion questions, and using an experienced facilitator really gets the results that you are looking for. And you can see for, in terms of plan for engagement, you need to deliver multiple learning opportunities, have the members interact with you early. Don't go into a 90-minute AI session and the members start talking after 45 minutes. That's not the way to do it. You can use breakout sessions and a variety of different exercises. So you need to tailor the AI discussion to your audience. One important consideration: please do not get too technical. If your audience is not technical, if they are not CIOs, CTOs, or anyone that is tech savvy, you can very, very easily get lost in the weeds. AI is it's on the surface, it seems easy, but once you actually get into it, into the models themselves and into neural networks, and how does it all work, it gets extremely complicated. And we've been at sessions where the members, you pretty much lost the audience because the discussion was too technical. So don't get too technical. Focus on what AI can do from a business perspective, from an operational perspective, from a customer perspective, from a sales perspective. So more on the use cases, more on if you had a magic wand, what would work and how would it revolutionize or change the way you look at things, but don't focus on the technology behind it. If you have external AI experts, usually they are scary smart, you need to prepare them. Prepare them for the level of the audience that they are going to engage with. If, for example, you bring in a speaker that is used to working in large enterprises, but your audience, your advisory board members are SMB members, there's a mismatch, right? Large enterprises have teams, they have innovation hubs, AI hubs, they have, significant budgets for investments. But if you have smaller firms, in your advisory board, they're not going to have it. They might have 2, 3 people in their IT department. So that needs to be considered before the session. So here are some of the things that I talked about. How is AI going to improve your business? How do you start getting benefits immediately? Steer away from going into the tech and the inner mechanisms of AI. Okay, now we actually wanted to present a few slides talking about actual sessions. Let's say you develop a session, and by the way, at Ignite, we don't believe in short sessions, right? We don't believe in doing something for 30 minutes or 45 minutes. Ideally, 90 minutes, could be even 2.5 hours, and you can have a short break in the middle. So let's say you plan on running generative AI session. A good way to start is looking at the big picture, what's in the news, latest headlines. There's always something coming up. Talk about different definitions, before and after, some best practices, limitations of Gen AI, right? It cannot do everything. So what are some of the limitations? Talk about trends and stats if you have any sponsored research. This is all helping the customers, your members, wrap their head around what they can do with generative AI. Another example, if you want to do more of an educational session, so AI overview, right? I mean, you can go all the way back to 1950 to Alan Turing and talk about the history of AI. You can talk about the different types. You can talk about companies that are investing in AI and what is the impact, and then end with use cases. And by the way, anyone that is doing it or consider doing it or done it before, feel free in the chat to come up with responses, comments, questions. We love to hear from you as well. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, here are some of the questions. Questions in a session are really like the rocket fuel for an advisory board. So let's say you want to introduce leveraging a new Gen AI, enterprise Gen AI tool. So a good way to start, I'm starting at the left here, is sharing your approach, sharing your philosophy, if you will, on AI adoption, looking for your own plans for POC. Do a brief demo. If you have a demo to share, do a brief demo. Sometimes it actually helps to see what you mean when you talk about AI, and then use breakout sessions. We'll talk about breakout sessions in a second. Example questions to get the audience started. Data. How do you get your data ready to be leveraged for AI, right? It's a huge topic, complicated, and you could spend an entire session focusing on what do you need to do to get ready for AI. How your company. Okay, I have a comment here from Shelly. We just read it. We talk about AI in the context of our own product development and AI features in progress. It's our last 3 or 4 industry CAB meetings. Our goal is to get feedback from our C-level CAB members on what they need and are we hitting the mark. That's perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Shelly. Bobby is sharing that use case scenarios, exclamation point. AI is so big and offers so many opportunities that I find people just don't know where to start. That's exactly the case. So thank you, Bobby. Like I shared before, it's much better to focus on a sliver of the pie versus trying to, okay, we're gonna run through all different aspects of AI, because if you do that, imagine what could come up. You could talk about AI talent. You can talk about availability of data. You can talk about use cases. You can talk about trust, privacy, security. You can talk about the infrastructure. You can talk about platforms. You can talk about alignment to your business goals. What about cultural resistance to change? What about data analysts? I mean, the list is endless. It just doesn't make sense to try to do all of it. On the right, if you're actually trying to get the topic of business impact of AI, a good way to start is talk about a platform approach to AI versus, a point solution. So what would make sense to the cab member organizations? Would it make sense for them to have 50 or 100 different solutions from different vendors, or would it help if they were able to harness the power of a platform? And what would it take to create a platform? And who would create the platform? And who do they want to see in the platform? I mean, again, each topic here, it's an entire universe. Try to get use cases for members, even if it's not complete. And I'm stopping right here for a second. Bobby has another comment. AI can solve virtually any business challenge. Asking them, what problem are you trying to solve? My company sells AI as a service, so we have to balance education without sounding like a sales pitch. Excellent point. I really love the focus on what exactly are you trying to solve? Are you deploying AI just to say that, you're cool, or, you're not missing the curve because everyone else is doing it? It needs to provide ROI. And by the way, you can have an entire session around ROI of AI, right? That could be an entire session. What would it look like? What are the metrics? What are the metrics to your financial team, to the operational team, to the executive sponsors, to C-level executives? How are you going to define ROI? How are you going to create value? And on and on. And you can see some example questions here when you're looking at creating use cases, AI, in the sense of automating your IT infrastructure, use cases that could provide transformative capabilities. How do you organize internally? So plenty of information here to start planning for your AI session. Okay, many companies have an AI centralized team. They call it by different names. We've seen AI leadership, AI innovation, AI central, whatever name they call it. It's a centralized team that comes together usually under tech. We've seen it actually sometimes under marketing, rarely under sales. It seems to be either tech or marketing, sometimes in ops. So when you have a session that you want to educate your customers on your centralized team, it's a good way to talk about the why, the how, the what, the who's running it, what are the metrics, what's the business goal, how are you training your own people, what are the key themes, and then how would that centralized team, that's the most important question, how would the centralized AI team help customers in the advisory board meeting achieve their objectives? Okay, we are huge believers in breakouts. Sometimes we do 2, 3, 4 breakouts per session. So this is a suggestion for a breakout around AI. Set up 3 groups. Let's say you have 15 members in your advisory board. Each group has 5 members. There is a art and science on who would you use as the group leader, and how do you mix and match different people in groups. You're welcome to look at our CAB materials on the Ignite website. We actually reviewed this point and others when we talk about breakouts. But when you have 3 groups, one way to do it is have one group focus, or 2 groups, on current and potential use cases. That's important. Many times customers are not going to have current AI use cases. They might have 1 or 2, but if you talk to them about potential, they're going to come up with many more, right? So that would be the first group. And then the second group or the third group, it's up to you to decide what would be the weights here. What are the key challenges and consideration, in terms of privacy, trust, regulatory, resistance to change, and how can they be addressed effectively? In summary, a couple of key points to consider. from what we've seen out there, a session where your company, you're the host company, right? When you share about your own AI initiatives and AI journey, and transparency is important. Don't make it sound like you solved all the AI challenges in the world. Focus on what you've achieved, what you've learned, what were the challenges. Be as candid as you can be. Customers will appreciate it. We talked about strong preparation. We talked about tailoring the discussion to your audience, not getting too technical. The discussion will fall flat unless you have highly technical members in the audience. Make sure that expert speakers are prepared. They need to be session leaders. They don't need to preach to the audience. They need to engage the audience, right? It's a big difference. Keep the conversation future focused. If you have definitions, research, stats, always help. Always try to bring 2, 3, 4 AI use cases from your members. Help them develop the use cases if they need help. Use breakout sessions and polls. Want to pause for a second here and see if anyone has any question or comment.
I don't see any questions right now, but
Okay, very good. So if you need more information on how to prepare for your next advisory board meeting, on the right, you see the CAB resources. Ignite has a lot of information. I would say even too much, right? In terms of newsletters, in terms of webinars with our clients, in terms of podcasts, in terms of articles in Forbes and Customer Think, and so on and so forth. So you can immerse yourself in our resources and learn a lot from it. We are also hosting a panel at the Customer Marketing Alliance Summit in San Francisco with two of our clients, Lauren from Adobe and Rebecca from Uber, talking about accelerating business value using customer-led advisory boards. That's in September in San Francisco.
a quick comment from Nancy. Thank you. Great info to think about as we're planning our next CAB session.
Thank you, Tatiana. And we also invite you to schedule a free CAB evaluation, especially if you have an upcoming meeting or if you are thinking about starting a CAB. Again, it's free, and one of our experienced CAB consultants can share with you an advisory board plan. This is our bread and butter. You know, we have a unique IP around the methodology, so we can share with you a high-level plan. We can discuss your needs and make recommendations.
So thank you everyone for joining us, and hopefully this will help you plan your next session, as some people wrote here. Eyal, final words.
Final words, I think the key takeaway is you really need to think about what you're trying to achieve with AI and make sure you focus on one aspect and go deep into that one aspect.
Thank you, everyone. Bye, Eyal, and bye, everyone.